Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to race number 12 on the season for the cNASCAR Chris Cup Series. As we're here at the Michigan International Speedway for the Chrisigan 200, 100 laps here today at this 2-mile speedway. Some people consider the way it is as a super speedway. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Sam Dyer. And Sam, a smaller field here today. So with that being said, what type of racing are we going to be able to see here in the Chris Cup Series?
Most of the time when we're here at Michigan, we see a lot of cars staying close to one another, drafting being very important with these vehicles, but we're racing on the older configuration, the 2009 version of Michigan, so the track is a bit more bouncier than what these drivers might be used to here regularly on iRacing. So it's going to be bumpy. You got to make sure that you hit the bumps right and it doesn't spin you around, but the setup these guys are using is kind of loose. They got to be careful. The track's a little hot, being 93 track temp, but it's 77 degrees out, being a nice day for these drivers. We'll see if they can keep it clean and green for all 100 laps.
We've also got a little bit of a difference of shadow and sun here. We've got sun from about turn 2 over to turn 3 on the back straightaway, but you can clearly see here as the field is gridded at the start-finish line, shadows there, courtesy of the front straightaway grandstand on the front straightaway. So these drivers may have to deal possibly with some visibility issues maybe coming off of turns 3 and 4. So we look at the starting lineup for today's race. As we mentioned, a very small field here today. Right now, 14 cars scheduled to take the green, and Christopher Takis on point alongside of Christopher Williams. Row 2, we're going to find Chris Bass, our winner from last week at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, alongside of Chris Otto. As we look back through the rest of the starting grid here, anybody here that's kind of stepping out to you as someone that could maybe make a last-ditch move into the playoffs? Because this is race 12. We've only got 3 more races after this until that 5-race playoffs begins.
I mean, out of all the cars that are here, I think Personet's the one car that's outside looking in, and he joined about midway through the season, so he was already struggling to get into the playoffs. It's going to be difficult for him to do so, but maybe possibly with the win will help him catapult himself even closer to getting into the playoffs.
Now, we have 100 laps here today. This track, they're going to be carrying speeds upwards of around over 180 miles per hour. I think 182 was about the top speed I saw some of these drivers hit in practice, so it's not going to take them long to get around this racetrack. However, Michigan's not exactly one of those tracks that's kind to the good years, so these drivers are going to have to be in tire conservation mode to try and stretch it to the fuel window. How do you do that at a track as fast as this?
It's pretty difficult. The draft, though, is going to help a lot. You're going to be able to back off with the fuel, save fuel that way, but tire-wise, it's so difficult to save tires, especially with how aggressive the older track configuration was and it not being paved. It's going to be difficult for these drivers to do so, and it's looking like we're going to start out with 13 drivers as the pace car pulls off.
It's going to be the National Chris Chevrolet Camaro alongside of the Chrysaline Ford Mustang as the green flag is in the air, and we're racing in the Chrisigan 200.
And up front, I mean, Williams getting up there in first race of the season for him in the Chris Cup, so hoping to see a good run on his part. But also you got Takis, who's looking to get some redemption after last week's not-so-solid run.
Wondered about this track possibly being a multi-groove track. You saw right there, Chris Otto in the 88 jumped up to the 3rd lane, tried to cross over to the inside of Chris Personet. So looks like you can get a bit of a run there on corner exit if you run the higher groove, but I kind of wonder how many drivers we're really going to see venture up to that area of the track.
Yeah, you can kind of see the middle line being where there's the most grip that's already placed down. That's where a lot of the drivers are going to be running, where they're going to feel the most comfortable. But you can run lower than that and higher, but there's the risk of when you run lower to get loose, and the higher part, you might lose some time on entry.
On board with Christopher Williams and that number 42. Saw he was all over the back bumper. Christopher Takis going through the front straightaway, and you saw right there how he pushed up off the corner. That's another thing, too, that these drivers are going to have to deal with. Takis right now is the driver enjoying the clean air. Everybody else behind is going to feel that aero push if they're running the draft of someone.
Chris Cordo, someone who just bounced off the wall off of turn number 2, and that's going to be something that we got to watch out as well, is if cars are running high, their car likes to drift up and scrape the wall. Coming off of turn number 2, got to be careful not to scrub off too much of your fenders coming off that corner.
We mentioned that the speed these drivers are carrying. Now, they were carrying about 182 by themselves in practice. This is the first time that a big group of cars has been out on track here now during race conditions. All these drivers were about 189, almost 190 heading into turn one. And you can see that there's that runoff there to the inside of the back straightaway. There's also the infield grass off of turn four. So if these drivers spin out, there is an opportunity for them to be able to catch their race cars. But with the speeds they're carrying, if you hit the wall, no fast repairs here today, and so if you hit the wall, you're going to hit it a ton, and more than likely your day's going to be over.
Yeah, I was actually doing and running a little bit of practice. If you run into these walls head on with your front bumper, you are blowing up that engine immediately. So you got to be careful not to hit the walls at all. I mean, you can scrape it here and there, but you're going to lose some time just because of how much importance there is in the aero package with these vehicles. As we're starting to see a pass for the lead, Takis taking it back.
Yeah, Takis just got passed moments ago by Christopher Williams. Now crosses the inside there in 3 and 4. Some good racing here, even with the limited number of drivers we have in tonight's event. Great battling for the lead. They were 3 wide for third at one point back there. Chris Otto, Chris Personette, and Chris Bass. They've now settled that out with Otto taking the 3rd position. That's actually brought Chris Jonathan Leach into that group as well, running the 6th position. So right up here inside your top 5, you got some great racing, and right now, trading back and forth between Takis and Williams at the front. Another crossover for the 42.
I mean, yeah, you can make these crossovers. You got to be careful, though. Using and staying side by side is enabling the guys from third on back to catch you back up. Once they're in line, though, with this 2-car tandem, they're able to really pull away from the rest of the pack. They're not really, if you're in a bigger pack than 2, you're carrying a little bit too much speed in the corner. You have to let off, and you might be losing time compared to cars that are just one-on-one.
I have to wonder, too, the tire that's going to take the most pressure in this type of a race is that right rear. And with the crossovers they're making, they're turning the car way down to the left on corner exit. I would think that would wear that right rear even more.
Yeah, it really is. And so all this passing that's going on is wearing down these tires. But at the same time, you got Williams who's trying to lead laps and possibly even try to go for the bonus points of leading the most laps. He joined in a little bit late here in the season, as I believe there's only 4 races left in the season before we get to the Chris playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting time getting closer and closer to the playoffs as the races dwindle away. The pressure kind of starts to build up.
I already mentioned the sponsorship on that 42 of Chrysaline. I'm assuming that the C in the star there, that would be Chrysico, if I'm not mistaken. So it's the first time we've seen him here with that sponsorship, that ride here in the Chris Cup Series, and doing a pretty good showing of himself. But these two, I was noticing the lap times, these two were running anywhere from maybe 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds slower than the duo of Chris Personette and Chris Otto, and now the 26 and the 88 have caught them.
Yeah, Personette and Otto, we're kind of giving each other space, but still running well as our leaders were staying side by side, using up their tires by staying this way, as it looks like Personette following the 42, thinking about going 3 wide, but thinking otherwise.
Yeah, he looked to maybe go up the middle coming off of 4, looked to maybe go to the outside. Ooh, that made me nervous as Takis got awfully tight going into turn 1. Car drifted up. Personette had to give him room, and now it's going to be Takis put in the middle 3 wide. That's Otto to the bottom, Personette to the top side.
Otto's going to back off just a little bit and follow suit behind Personette. I think that's the smartest move, is to follow that 18 as the 46. His car just looks like it's tightening up just a little bit too much in these corners, drifting up a little bit more than he wants, scrubbing off that time. And there you go, Personette into second cleanly. And now he's got his sights set on the 42 machine.
We saw Chris Otto there kind of run low off of turn 4. Normally drivers like to let their car right up to the wall carry that speed, because there is a little bit of a weird transition off the inside line of turn 4 because of the pit road entry area. So I think that's what the 88 hit. That's what lost him the momentum, as he was trying to take 3rd place away from Takis. And race leader Christopher Williams dealing with a little bit of a connection issue. That's not what he wants to be having happen as he's out in front.
No, it's really not. And that's not helping Personette at all either, because when that 42 blinks away, he's losing the draft, and then all the advantage goes to the cars behind him, as it looks like Otto and Takis getting right on the back bumper of that 18 machine.
Takis going to cross to the inside of Otto. I didn't know if they were clear or not. That camera shot didn't give me a great idea of whether they were or not, but there they were. Clear going into turn 1. Takis on the charge, trying to get back to the race lead. Boy, that car just really pushes up there through 1 and 2. Makes me nervous every time he's got a car to his inside, and that actually kind of forced Personette to back off. So even though it made my heart jump, it actually worked for him to pick up the position.
And with our leader just lingering where he's at in second place, becoming a 3-wide battle, it brings in the rest of the field. As now we got Leach as well as Lawrence now being brought into the pack and battling for second.
At 48, Chris Bank Chevrolet Camaro now side by side for the third spot with Takis. Ooh, Takis I don't think realized he was down there. Tried coming down the track to the inside line going into one. And wow, Leach going to push up there on the corner as well. I mean, it looks like everybody really has to run, at least for the time being, in that middle groove through 1 and 2. They try making a move to the inside. They're either drifting up in the corner or having to lift and losing momentum.
Yeah, I mean, if you go below this black marker you kind of see on the track where the groove and the rubber's been placed, if you go below that where Personette is, if you go any lower than where Personette is right now, your back end is just going to snap on you, and you're going to start spinning this thing around. Got to give credit to Personette trying to run something different than what everyone else is. It's not the fastest line at the moment.
With everybody up here in this lead pack, this is probably a great time, only 12 laps in, to do some experimentation, because who knows, maybe something you find here in the early stages of this race is something you'll be able to utilize in the closing stages of the event, maybe with a checkered flag on the line, as we're focused here on the number 13 Hoop Chris Ford Mustang. That is Chris Matt Metler filling in the rest of the season for Christopher Papa. Made his debut last week at North Wilkesboro, came with a top 5 run.
Yeah, it was a really solid running by that 13 machine last week, and you know, he was trying to get possibly even better than where he ran, but you know, where he finished off, a great run, and a great start for where he started the Chris Cup last week.
Christopher Reese right there in the 62, and last week's winner, Chris Bass, running all the way back in the 9th position. Now he is at the tail end of this lead pack. I almost wonder, is this strategy? Because if I'm not mistaken, I believe last week was Chris Bass's first win of the season. And so now they've got that win. But there was a second win. Okay,
yeah,
I was going to say.
Yeah, he dominated last week, and then he won the shocker at Texas, where our front drivers basically took each other out. So, yeah, last week, his second win of the season for Chris Bass.
That's right. So I was wondering, you know, with him being back here, having those wins in his hip pocket, if maybe he's doing what you're talking about, that tire conservation, not forcing the issue right now, waiting until everybody ahead of him uses up their stuff, and then he'll be able to make some passes and maybe work his way up to the lead.
Yeah, the window for these guys, it's looking like, is anywhere from 35 to 42 laps is the window that these drivers are going to come in the pits. So it's going to be a 2-stop race, and you got to wonder, you could try to stretch it as far as you can here on this first run, and then make the next run maybe a little bit shorter than it has to be, and you don't have to put in as much fuel or tires. But these drivers all going to have to keep on running for another 15 to 20 laps before we have our first stop of the day. Gotta say, though, you got this front pack that are all racing hard and all together, but from 10th on back, you're starting to see this group of 3 cars. All 3 of them, of Hubka, Cordova, and Noblet, they've all brushed the wall at some point at the start of this race. That's why they're off the pace, and they're about 4 seconds to 3 seconds off from this lead pack.
I think Corvo actually just brushed the wall again, that time off of turn 2. And while we can't really visibly see any damage, it doesn't mean it's not there. And of course, with the fact that all these guys have already lost time to that front pack already, if they have to spend a little extra time on pit road, if we get into a round of green flag pit stops to repair that damage, that's going to lose them even more time.
Takis once at the lead, but Williams takes it right back. I take it back. Takis on the outside with a fantastic run.
Williams drove it in deep to turn 1, praying that it would stick, and it did not, as that car almost went straight into turn 1, and he had to lift. That allowed Takis to swing around and keep the top spot on the outside line. Chris Otto side by side there with Chris Leach. Otto was the race leader a couple laps ago before really overdriving turns 3 and 4. He literally almost ran the outside line up against the wall through 3 and 4. It dropped him back to 3rd, and now he's actually losing more spots as he loses some more momentum off of turn 4.
Yeah, the Otto's just struggling right now. He's stuck on the inside where I don't think that car's feeling as comfortable as it could be. Personette running the preferred line on the middle of the track, and some of these guys right here, I like the strategy that we're seeing from the 13, 62, and 79 of just lingering back behind this pack. Let everyone else in front of them use up their tires and their stuff with these abrasive moves that they're doing and using up those the back tires. As you say, that 13 drifts up and almost gets into Bass.
I think there might have been contact between those two, and Bass did a great job not hitting the wall off of turn 4. They keep it clean for the moment. That could have been a near moment of possibly our first caution there if that had gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, Bass over the radio was not impressed and actually quite frustrated by the 13's move there. But these guys, at least they're all pretty clean. There was no contact. Went back to go rewatch that. 97 still clean as well as the 13, so they're still running hard. But that really throws off the momentum and groove that Bass once had.
Battle for the second position now, and it's over as Personette used the outside line car in the wall there off of 4. That was the 42 of Christopher Williams, our outside pole sitter. He got it pretty good there. Didn't look like there was even any contact between himself and another driver. The car just drifted up there into the wall, so we'll see as he comes by here if maybe we can see any damage to the right side of that machine. Can't visibly see any, but...
Oh, yeah. It's on the right rear where most of that damage is. A little bit on the front end. But Williams feeling that contact. He didn't just hit it. He was in the wall for a good while before getting off. He's still in the back end of this front pack, but heavy damage for the 42.
I mean, all these guys back here, they're fighting two different conditions. They've been out there for 19 laps now. So those rear tires, that rear grip's starting to go away. So that's probably a loose sensation they're having to deal with, especially through the center of the corner off. Plus the fact they're all running up here in a pack together
no!
as Leach, what a save!
Well, amazing save by that 48 machine. Lawrence just tapped him a little bit, and that little contact got the 48 completely loose. But a fantastic save by Leach.
I'll tell you what, Lawrence had actually the last lap ago run right up on the back bumper of the 48. I thought they were going to make contact then. And that time they definitely did. But man, I cannot believe how that 48 did not loop around. Tremendous job of saving it. But as I was going to say, you know, they're fighting that loose sensation. But at the same time, they've got that arrow push running the draft of each other. So they're fighting the car at both ends of the racetrack on both ends of the race car.
Yeah, it's loose entering, middle tight off. And that's what we were starting to see there was the 01 getting a little bit tight off and pushing up into the 48. But the car that's making moves now looked like it's going to be Chris Bass, who slowly has got back to the sleep pack. Now trying to make move here on Lawrence, but another driver, Reese. He's someone that's really pushing in that corner, able to get by Williams.
Christopher Reese moving into 7th, and Bass right now up to 6th. Both of these drivers really benefiting from that near wreck we just had there with Jonathan Leach, because it's actually checked everybody up. And both Bass and Reese, they kept their foot in the throttle and picked up about 2-3 positions because of that. As we move back up to the front, battle is going to go on for the second position, possibly. Well,
not the
I
moment.
thought it was going to be.
But the closer these guys get, and if they start to battle it out, it will enable this second group, led by Leach, to start to catch these guys. It's about a second difference. The draft is not there for the 48, but the pressure behind the 48 is there by Lawrence and Bass, who Bass just gets under the 48, making the pass for 4th place. Here comes the 97.
Going to use that apron on the front straightaway, which is legal. However, a lot of drivers don't really like to use it because it hurts your entry into the upcoming corner. A lot of drivers like to enter in high, drive it in deep, and you can't really do that if you're not clear on the driver you're passing utilizing that apron on the front straightaway. But Bass is going to be able to complete the move. He'll move into that 4th position. Now he's got about 2 seconds to make up before he can get to the race leader, Christopher Takis.
Yeah, these guys need to start staying in line and start working together. Possibly use some bump drafting. As Lawrence is now, it looks like his tires might be burnt up because he's drifting back fast. Back to 7th now when he once was up at 4th place at one moment.
But can you do that even on this long of a run? Can you actually make up time running in a single file formation? Because, you know, we're seeing how these drivers now are really dealing with the difficulty in the handling of their race cars. If you're running single file, that 2nd, 3rd, 4th car in line are going to be dealing with that arrow push. Is it possible with the way that the rear tires are worn right now to still make up ground in a single file formation?
I mean, for the second group, as long as the front 2 cars can stay in line, everyone else behind them can just be as big as a group as they want to be and just follow suit. But I thought the main thing, though, is they're hoping that these front guys start battling it out side by side, losing and scrubbing time that way, so they can catch them a little bit easier. But at the moment, looks like Bass is the one who's pulling away from Leach and Reese at the moment.
Well, it's going to be for that 5th position between the two drivers you just mentioned, Leach and Reese. Reese not able to drive it in deep and have it stick, as, boy, he lost a lot of ground there through 1 and 2. Might have had another car in the wall back there. That might have been Chris Matt Metler again off of turn 2. A lot of drivers been having some difficulty here, drifting up in the corner, and boy, a high entry for Christopher Williams. Coming off of 4, he's actually going to get the car to turn. I was kind of worried about that, but Metler now going to try and take the spot away from him as, whoa, Williams then tries to cross to the inside as he was clear on the 13. Didn't have enough momentum.
Yeah, a little update for cars that are running in the back. It looks like Chris Cordeau had to put his car into the pits. It's not over yet for that machine, but heavy damage on the 7 after scrubbing the wall a couple of times there. Also, you've got the 17 of Chris Noblet and Chris Upka, 10th and 11th, just by them lonesome, only about 5 seconds off of this second pack, trying to catch them if they can, but really not able to. You got Chris Newman, who is about 19 seconds away from our leader, and is about 10 seconds away from our leader lap in the 90 machine.
Of course, he's going to have to figure out which lane these race leaders are going to want when they eventually get to him, as we are more than a quarter of the way through this race. We've been under the green flag since the start. Spartacus continuing to show the way, although he's had to duke it out with a couple of guys here to keep that race lead. Now seems to be somewhat in control, but as I've been watching the telemetry, little by little, Chris Otto has been chipping away, and I got to remember back to the Pocono race when Chris Otto went to victory lane. I mean, that was another type of track where it came down to tire conservation, having your car set up for the long run. Seems like Chris Otto's doing that again here today at Michigan.
Oh no, I was looking back and it looks like Leach got a little loose, but lost a little bit of time and he caught up behind the lap machine of the 7 car. But yeah, Otto trying to make a good run here. He's right on the back bumper of Takis. Really, at any moment, could push it down and start trying to make a pass here.
Chris Corbeau is going to be a little bit of a difficult driver for these drivers on the lead lap to get around, because he is on fresh tires now. Even up there on that outside line, you can see he's able to hold off Christopher Reese, Christopher Lawrence, Leach, and Metler. Now they're all going to get around him. Is probably he decided, okay, enough's enough. Got to get out of the way of these guys before they hunt me out of the way. This is actually a really good battle going on here. 4-way battle for the 5th position. 62, 01, 13, 48, all in this mix. And if they keep racing each other, you've got Christopher Williams back there in the 42 who might make it a 5-man fight.
Yeah, I think Williams, with the way that he was racing early in this race, his tires starting to wear away for him, as well as that damage not helping him at all. Leach at the moment, he just feels kind of trapped. He's not able to really make any big moves after having a little bit of that first slide he had with Lawrence, and then also having a little bit of a slide trying to get by the 7 machine.
What Chris Otto's doing that not many drivers have been able to do, and that's running that inside line. Oh, gracious. Pushed up just a little bit there, but then you see he's able to actually rotate the car through the center, keep it on that inside line through 1 and 2. He was on the inside line through 3 and 4. That's how he's been making up all of his ground here. That says to me that his tires, he's been conserving them a lot better than Christopher Takis had been.
Yeah, I mean, Takis, he's been our pole sitter. He's been fading in and out of the top 5. He's been really hard charging, backing off, trying to use up his tires as much as he can. And, you know, it's not a bad time to start using your tires as we're starting to get closer and closer to the window, and we'll start seeing drivers decide to come in. So it's not a bad time to start making some of these bigger moves is that we've been seeing Takis do earlier on. But Otto, I'm enjoying the way that he has been able to conserve his tires and really run this lower line.
Time looked like he lost a little bit of ground going through 1 and 2. The gap has opened up now to 0.3 of a second. Best battle right now is going on around the 6th position. That's where Christopher Lawrence takes a peek on Chris Metler. Be side by side going through 3 and 4. And to your point, these drivers eventually having to come to pit road for fuel. We're closing in around in the 10-lap window when they're all going to have to make a green flag pit stop, with the exception of the 7 of Chris Corriveau because he's already been on pit road. But I've seen, early on, these drivers having to really deal with lack of rear grip as the run goes on. It seems to be occurring more and more, and this is not one of the easiest pit roads to get onto. They're going almost 180, 185 miles per hour around this track. It's 55 miles per hour on pit road, and it's a very flat transition from the banking of turn 4 onto pit road entry.
Yeah, when they're in the middle of 3 and 4, the low speed they get down to is about 150 miles per hour. So they still have to take off about 95 miles per hour, slowing down. And that coming on to pit road, it's a little bit of a transition that's going to take effect for these drivers. But, they can figure it out for sure. I mean, Cordeaux is able to do it. We'll see if everyone else can. But pit road is where, just based off the fact that these drivers have been putting in so much work, it's where wins and losses can come into play, as we're seeing our first driver coming in. Hupka is going to be that. One of the cars up front that has already messaged that he's coming in. That's going to be Williams, who should be coming in this lap.
We saw the 42 really fading back, so not surprised to see he's one of the first ones to come to pit road. These drivers all have a little bit of a option of when they want to come to pit lane, because they know, regardless of if they pit now or if they pit up around lap 40, 41, they're going to have to come to pit road at least one more time. So some drivers...
That 42 almost came in speeding, had to lock up his brakes and made it into the pit road, as well as Personette was able to come in pit road cleanly as well.
You're going to change those 4 tires anyway, so you can use them up even when you're coming to that commitment line. Just got to make sure you don't speed, because if you speed, that is a costly penalty at a track like this. Looks like Takis may be coming in this time, as the first time we see him go to the inside line, and here comes the 46, the race leader.
Personette got a clean pit stop and was able to get through. 42 machine, he's actually doesn't have any optional repairs, so he feels like he needs to get done. Able to get out cleanly. As the 42 spins out onto the track, that's going to be your caution.
Right in front of traffic, close call there. I don't know who it was that was coming around there through turn 1 and 2, but that was nearly a huge calamity in the first corner. And to your point, caution is out, and a number of drivers had just hit pit lane, including Takis, Chris Bass, Mettler was on pit road, Lawrence, and Reese. I think all of them may have hit the commitment line before that caution came out. One I would be a little bit of a question mark about might possibly have been that 13, but we'll wait and see. Well, that caution did not come out at a good time for Chris Otto, because with him coming to pit road and most of these other drivers being able to still be on the lead lap, this is going to drop him back maybe around 7th, 8th place on the restart.
It was Chris Leach as well as Cordeaux that were the ones that almost had contact with 42. But yeah, like you said, that is not helpful to see for the 88 or the 48 or even the 17 at this point.
And I'm not certain who the free pass machine is going to be, because at the timing of that caution, the 42 of Williams was the car that actually got lapped.
Well, it wouldn't be Williams because...
Right.
Believe... Yeah, this is when things get tricky, because it's either going to go to Lawrence or the 13 machine.
I think Lawrence right now is scored on the lead lap. Maybe the 13 of Mettler. If not the 13 of Mettler, then I think it would be the 5 of Chris Hupka. And boy, there you see 42 spinning there. And that might have been a case of turning to the left there on a very flat apron, feeling the car almost spin around. I'm trying to correct it back and overcorrecting, but you could clearly see up there, top of your screen, just behind the ticker, those 2 machines that you mentioned that nearly got involved, Leach and Noblet. Close call there. We could have had a lot of torn up race cars if the 42 hadn't come to a halt quickly and those other 2 hadn't entered into turn 1 as high as they did.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about how entry is dangerous for these drivers, but exit as well. I mean, there's so much horsepower in these machines. Get on the throttle just a little bit too much, you get spinning around coming out of the pits. And it's one of those things where you're trying to get out of the pits. You're trying to get out of there as fast as possible, and he just got a little too excited there for the 42.
A costly mistake there for Christopher Williams. I think that he still came out, though, behind drivers that came to pit road of our race leader. So I think he's actually eligible to take the wave around, even though he brought off the caution and would not be the recipient of the free pass. So right now it looks like we could have as many as 12 of our 13 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. Right now, Chris Corbeau, who had that extended stay on pit road under green flag conditions, is 2 laps down.
And we're gonna have a couple of cars having this wave around. That's gonna be the 13 and the 42. We're gonna take the wave around. But cars that pitted, looks like Chris Otto is gonna be keeping the lead after everyone that has pitted so far. But Chris Bass actually just went into the pits right now.
Yes, he did. Hitting pit road again. He would have restarted this race from the 2nd position. We'll see what the strategy is here on the 97. Are they maybe going to top off the fuel tank to have him be able to go a little bit further here? Yeah, looks like no tires. Oh, as soon as I say that, they jack up the right side. Looks like they're going to at least change right side tires.
It's not a bad move to get the freshest tires that you can of everyone out here. So not a bad call for the 97. We'll see if that will work out for him, though.
Newman and that Chris Spear Ford Mustang, he was on the lead lap last I looked, and now he has fallen a lap down. An extended stay on pit road for him, and I don't know if it's connection problems or what, but the 48 of Chris Leach has all of a sudden grayed out on our leaderboard, and so I don't know if he might be getting back in here, maybe disconnecting accidentally, or if his day may be over.
Right now, it's looking like it's just an internet issue for that 48 because he didn't manually disconnect. So there is a possible chance that just internet went down. Those are the worst moments when your internet goes down in some fashion or a lack of connection, and then you have to come back and you're a couple laps down. So hope the 48 gets back in time. But Chris Otto, as the pace car pulls off, he'll be getting ready to go green once again for the 88 machine.
And we saw Chris Otto on the last green flag run. Very good in terms of conserving tires. We'll see how aggressive he's going to be here on this restart. Does he try and keep the lead, or does he go back into conservation mode?
Oh my goodness.
He don't have a choice.
Takis is, speaking of aggressiveness, there goes Takis. He just pulled straight down once he crossed the line and was trying to get by the 88 machine as fast as possible to get into the lead where he feels most comfortable. And here comes Lawrence with those fresher tires. Now moves that he wasn't able to make before, he might be able to with these fresher tires.
Highest we've seen that U.S. Chris Chevrolet up at the front right now in 3rd, trying to take 2nd. Personette up there as well in the 4th position. Top 4 been able to actually break away from 5th place Christopher Reese. They're 3 wide further back. Those fresher tires, 2-lap fresher tires of Chris Bass, he's putting them to work.
Yeah, Chris Bass trying to put them to work. I think right now, though, everyone behind Noblet and Opka are trying to figure out how to get by the 17 and the 5 because they're running well, but they weren't running just as fast as our lead pack once was because they were brushing the wall so much. They got the damage repaired. But still, how much damage is still on those cars that's slowing them down?
Here comes the 26 of Personette, way up to that 4th groove here at Michigan, trying to see if he can get the run off the corner, trying to close up ground between himself and Chris Otto. Didn't exactly work right there. That brings Christopher Lawrence back into the picture, but they're all chasing Christopher Takis, who's opened up a 6/10 of a second lead between himself and the 88.
Quick update for Chris Leach. He did disconnect from the server, but now is able to reconnect. He should be getting in soon, but the game's trying to load right now, and he is 3 laps down. He needs a lot of cautions, get a lot of lucky dogs, and get back into this thing.
Absolutely. Tough break there for Leach, who was running up inside of the top 5 at one point today, as Personette on that outside line again, swings around for the 2nd position, takes it from Chris Otto. Otto now under fire for 3rd. Now we'll see about this 26. Does he have anything to be able to reel in the 46 for the race lead?
I'm giving credit to Chris Noblet, who is able to stay with Reese in that 6th position at the moment. Think about pressuring that 62, maybe getting himself into the top 5.
Chris Noblet spent most of the first run back around the 9th 10th position. And now just outside of the top 5. Good run there for that Chris Alta Chevrolet Camaro as he's trying to see if he can reel in the 62 of Christopher Reese. Those two have their own little battle going on right now. And then about maybe 0.3 of a second back is where you find Christopher Williams, Chris Bass, and Chris Hubka. Saw Bass making some really aggressive moves there when the green flag flew for the restart. Now he's kind of settled into that 8th position.
Yeah, he kind of got stuck behind Hubka and wasn't able to get by the 5 car while everyone else went on the high side. And we're able to blast by both those two. And looking at it, Leach is now back in it, being 3 laps down at the moment.
Right now, he is running last of the drivers that took the green to start this race. As you mentioned, 3 laps down. Chris Corvo's 2 laps down. Chris Newman 1 lap down. Everybody else right now on the lead lap. Battle's going to be for the 3rd position. Well, it's the battle to take back the 3rd position as Christopher Lawrence just took 3rd place from Otto. Otto all over the back bumper of that U.S. Chris Chevrolet trying to take it back.
And that's such a dangerous move to make just because of how bouncy this track is. The bumps are aggressive on that front stretch, so you got to be careful not to get too close because if your car snaps randomly, you could be taking out yourself and the car in front of you.
That's a great point you bring up because I was actually going to touch on that when the green flag pit stops were going on. When we followed race leader Christopher Takas coming on to pit road, you just saw the front end of that car bouncing down onto the concrete, the splitter slamming down onto the asphalt area. I mean, this track, it's a very rough surface these drivers are having to deal with. That also could be a big reason why we're seeing them moving around so much with the different lines they take going into the corners.
Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes as drivers, once you're running a track long enough, you kind of understand, hey, this isn't a bump that's going to help me. It's going to slow me down. And so you try to take a line maybe a little bit off of not even trying to run a different line than the car in front of you, but just trying to avoid the bumps entering these corners sometimes.
Mentioned on the pit stops that Christopher Williams, who brought out our only caution so far, decided not to fix the damage. He's back here right now in the 8th position. We saw him on fresh tires at the very start of this race, really up there mixing it up with Christopher Takas. He's now back in that 8th spot, has not made any forward progress. I almost wonder if maybe that decision not to fix the damage, could that in any way be affecting him? I think you said most of the damage was to that right rear quarter panel.
Yeah, I mean, Williams right now, he's got that damage. He's running a little bit off from our leaders, and he's running back here around 8th place. It's just, he's back there with all the cars that have had damage by hitting the wall, so it's not like he's kind of out of the groove of the cars that didn't have damage. I don't know if the 42 car is going to be able to get into this thing, as looking back, yeah, I still see a little bit of damage, but maybe he just didn't get that optional damage for him, and it was just visible damage for us to see.
Noblet has now fallen back to 7th as Bass picks up a spot to 6th. And he's within striking distance of moving up maybe into the top 3 just up ahead of him. That's Christopher Reese, Christopher Lawrence, and Chris Otto. Also the 26th of Chris Joshua Personette. So, I mean, you know, you've got about 5 drivers right now you could throw a blanket over, all separated by just about maybe 6-7 of a second.
Yeah, and they're all battling for second at the moment. First place is about 1.3 seconds ahead of these guys. Feeling very comfortable as Christopher Takas as he's continuing to pull away from this group.
The timing of that caution, we know these drivers are still going to have to come to pit road at least one more time here, more than likely under green flag conditions, but we went back green. I believe it was on lap 37 or 38. I mean, these guys have choices now of when they want to come to pit road. They could stretch it as far as maybe lap 78, lap 80, but they could also short pit and come as soon as maybe lap 60, 65.
Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of these drivers probably thinking about the bubble of probably lap 70, maybe a little bit before lap 70 to 65 to about 75. That's the window we're looking for, the 10 laps of 65 to 75. Is probably the time when we're going to see a lot of drivers come in the pits, but people can't stretch it. These tires have already dropped off a ton. 10 laps onto these tires, they're already about a second off of their best time, if not more than that. So you got to be aware of how quick this tire wear is on these tires. Even if you short pit, you might be losing in the long run.
See Christopher Takas just up ahead there of our remainder of the top 5 as we're on board with Christopher Lawrence. And Takis has seemed like he has found the groove he wants to be in. Every time we look at that 46, he's running the kind of mid-high to high line through the corners, and he seems to be comfortable up there. We saw that Chris Otto was running the inside trying to challenge him for the race lead. I think that 46 is pretty much committed to that line right now, not willing to try it anywhere else.
Yeah, not really feeling too much pressure, but he was starting to lose time on, and that gap was starting to dwindle away between himself and second place. But then second place started to battle it out, side-by-side action besides Person and Otto, and that was starting to slow this 3-car group down. They got to stay in line as much as possible. And once they get up to the leader, then you can start getting side-by-side again.
And don't look now, Chris Bass, who since going back green has been able to work his way from 9th up to 4th, now challenging Chris Otto for that 3rd position. And right now, looking in terms of lap times, yes, he's got the benefit of the draft here, but he's been running anywhere from a 10th to a 10th and a half faster than Christopher Takis. And he's got about also a lap, 2 laps fresher tires. So if he can get by the 26 and the 88, you almost wonder if he might have something for our race leader.
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking where the 26 and the 97 are at with their tires. Otto, he's continuing to run where he feels most comfortable, which is that inside line, and it works sometimes, but other times we're starting to see that 26 gets the better run off the corner because he's running a little bit higher than the 88.
3 of our top 4 have all been to victory lane this season, so they're more than likely locked into playoff positions in the Chris for the Cup. The only guy that's not locked in right now, as you mentioned, that 26 of Chris Personette. So he's definitely going to try and be aggressive here today, try and see if he can pick up a checkered flag. He just hasn't quite been able to find his way around Chris Otto. He's closed into the back bumper a couple times here, but he always seems to lose his ground, especially off of turn 2. Now he's got bigger problems. Here comes Chris Bass looking for 3rd place and might have him cleared by the time they get to turn 1.
Does get the pass done for Bass. And I got to say, Personette, he jokingly said before this race started today, that it would be nice to get a win. I mean, it would help myself get closer and closer to the chase. Might even lock myself in if I somehow get this win. So the 26 had some high hopes for today's race. Even if it wasn't a joking manner, the 26 had a great run here in the top 5.
Of course, too, we have to mention the fact we ran about, 36 laps under green for that first run. If we go green to the end, we saw the mistake by Christopher Williams coming off of pit road. That pit lane could be the deciding factor into who's taking the checkered flag here this week and who isn't.
Yeah, I mean, you got to worry about your entry, how much speed you're carrying in, and also just driving down the pit lane, how much speed you're carrying, and make sure you don't speed under the pit road and exit like Saul Williams. You got to be careful on that exit. Be aggressive, but also don't spin your car out and cause yourself to have a caution, even though the caution was the best thing for Williams to keep himself still on the lead lap.
Side by side continues for second. Chris Bass trying to make the move on the inside line of Chris Otto. These 3 had gotten the race leader reeled in by about 0.7 of a second, but now because of the side-by-side battling going on for the runner-up spot, gap has increased back to 1.2 seconds. And of course, we mentioned that Michigan at the top of the program, a lot of people consider it a super speedway just in the speeds they carry and the way that this track is so draft reliant. Well, the big reason for that is because you saw right there when Chris Otto and Chris Bass got side by side with each other, they were not really battling with each other and having one be faster than the other. What was happening was one was slowing the other one down, and in turn it was actually slowing them both down.
Chris Newman going to be staying on the inside, letting traffic go, and with him doing that, it looks like the 7 car and Newman both going to be 2 laps down, and could be giving the 7 car this lucky dog spot as the 7 comes around turn number 4, trying to run down the 90 machine.
And Newman was hoping for maybe a quick caution to come out. He was the only car 1 lap down at the time. If a caution come out, he would have been the recipient of the free pass and been back on the lead lap. Now, Newman, Corbeau 2 laps down, Leach 3 laps down. So if the caution comes out, whoever the lucky dog is of those 3 drivers, they would only get 1 lap back, would not be back on the same lap as the leaders.
Now with the battle that was going on for 3rd, it's given Otto some space between himself and the cars behind him as he's now pulling away, but he is not, since he doesn't have a drafting buddy, he is not able to gain any time on Christopher Takis.
This side by side for third place between Bass and Personette, actually bringing Christopher Reese into the mix as well in the 62. Maybe even Chris Noblet. He's not too far back behind these guys, so we could have a 4-horse fight for that third position. And we saw on the last green flag run how Chris Otto likes to run the bottom. He had conserved his tires pretty well and actually reeled in and was side by side with Takis near the end of that green flag run just before pit stops. He's got about a second and 2/10 to make up here, and it's like little by little he's chipping away again.
Yeah, you just got to stay consistent and hope that Takis just keeps on running a little bit off. And I think based on how Otto is running, he might be able to get within drafting help to run down the 46. But by the time that he gets there, it might be time for these cars to pit.
The first time I've actually seen Chris Otto use the outside line through 1 and 2. I'm not sure he did that on purpose because it's going to cost him. Here comes Chris Bass to his bumper for second place.
Going back to check out what happened to the 88 machine, because that is it's odd to see him running that high. I think it just might have been that he was trying something different and realized that he did not carry as much speed as he had been doing on the inside, expecting him to go back to holding on that inside line to go into turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, that lost him about 4/10 to race leader Takis, and also brought Christopher Bass, Chris Personette, Christopher Reese all up into his same zip code. Is now Bass to the outside looking for second place. He's going to actually have some drafting help down the back straightaway here. Looks like Otto may have gotten a little loose there off of 2, so no contest for second place.
Looking at the cars that have some of the fastest laps out here on that last lap, actually it was the 13 machine who was the fastest last lap. So I've got to give credit to the 13 machine for that, but he is all the way back in 8th place.
Right now running in the draft of the lap machine of Chris Jonathan Leach, who is 3 laps down. Next car, 13's trying to get up to 4th position, would be 7th place Christopher Lawrence in the 0-1 machine, currently running about a little more than a second ahead of his number 13. Back up at the front, though, Chris Otto is faded from 2nd, now back to 4th as Personette's moved up to 3rd. Here comes Christopher Reese now all over the back bump of the 88. And to your point, doing that experimentation up in 1 and 2 on the high side, looks like that has really affected Chris Otto now. I don't know if maybe that really burned up his rear tires and now he's not finding nearly the grip he found earlier, or if he's just trying to get himself back into a rhythm and it's taking him a little bit of time.
I think it's just trying to get back to a rhythm, as also just being closer to the draft and being behind Dirty Air is not helping the 88 either. But looking at how many laps we've ran, we're on lap 61, 40 laps to go, and we are about 5 to 6 laps away from getting into that marker where we'll start seeing drivers pitting and making that last pit stop to the end if we stay green.
These drivers wanted to split this run in half. They should be on pit road maybe in the next 8 to 11 laps. We'll see who's going to be the first ones to hit pit road. I think the first ones that hit pit road on the last cycle of green flag pit stops was the 42 of Chris Williams. So we'll see if he's going to be one of those drivers that tries to come to pit road. I think, was that a pit stop or is the 7 of Corvo just getting out of the way? I think he is getting out of the way of the race leaders.
Yeah, that was him getting out of the way. A car that did pit, though, was going to be the 42 machine, who just came down this lap. So a couple of machines, at least the 42, first one to come into the pits. And yeah, he can make it from here. He just might need a little bit of drafting help.
Right there, the front tires lock up as he pulls it into his pit stall. That's something about this racetrack too. You'll notice that the access road is asphalt. The pit stalls are concrete, which do not have nearly as much grip. So you run the risk of sliding into your pit stall, maybe overshooting your pit stein, having to back it up, and that costs you valuable time.
Looking back at the 7, it looked like he overshot pit road. That's why he was so slow and on the inside. He actually had missed pit road completely and was just running on the inside trying to avoid everyone. Able to finally come into the pits this time by. So 2 cars now into the pits, the 7 and also for the 42.
Corvo has really been struggling here today at Michigan. Looks like he's been in the wall again. Some more right side damage on his Chris Cola Ford. Up at the front right now, it's now 1.8 seconds from Takis back to new second place driver Chris Bass. Chris Otto has moved to third. Fourth is Christopher Reese. Driver that has faded back since we last looked is Chris Personette. He was up in third place when we last looked. He's now drifted back into kind of a little zone of his own right now in the fifth position.
Yeah, Personette early on in this run was trying to push it and get up into at least second or maybe even first place, but kind of used up a lot of his stuff early on and thought maybe he could try to redeem his tires. Was not able to. It looked like Bass was the one out of the cars that were originally the top four group. Was able to save his tires the best as Otto has drifted back one position, and you got Reese who's just now sitting there in fourth, just waiting for his time to pounce.
We saw the 42 of Christopher Williams come to pit road. He's the only one of the lead lap cars that has come to pit lane here under this last run, potentially, should we not see another caution for the remainder of this race. The next driver that was on pit lane when we had our first round of green flag pit stops was our race leader, Christopher Takis. So, interesting to see when the 46 eventually decides to hit pit road. Does he jump the gun on all these guys behind him trying to run him down, or does he try and wait, see what second on back do, and then make his strategy accordingly?
I mean, I have a feeling that whenever the car behind him pits, he's got to react to it. So if we see any of the cars that are in the top five come in the pits, I would imagine that's when we'll see Takis possibly pull into the pits. But I mean, just based off of what Williams is doing, as it looks like Hupka now pulling into the pits, as Williams is only running about a second faster than what he was doing with his best lap time, which was him in the draft. So he's running about a second faster than what our leader is doing, and a second faster than what everyone was doing. So he's getting some time. It's Personette now in the pits.
Personette from the fifth position, so he is the first of the higher running drivers to come to pit road. We'll see how this strategy works out for him. Now, the thing that he, Hubka, as well as Christopher Williams do not need to see right now is another caution flag coming out, because usually here at Michigan, you're going to end up losing a lap to the race leaders, and so they do not want to have to rely on a wave around, lose all the track position they could gain if this thing cycles around for a green flag run.
Yeah, they are crossing their fingers that no caution comes out. I mean, Personette right now, he could gain a lot of time, but I think at one point, if he can be out there, run about 6 laps or so, it's going to be hard, as it looks like he's finally being passed by Bass. So, the 26, a lap down for sure. As it looks like Lawrence now coming in, communicating that he's going to be coming in. So we're starting to see a lot of more drivers going to be coming in the next 2 laps or so. But I would really try to push my tires and fuel another 5 laps or so. Try to get into the 70 lap marker, as it looks like Bass pulling in the pits.
It's from second place. Otto going to follow him as well from third, and
Noblet.
17 of Noblet on pit lane also, and looks like Lawrence as well as Chris Matt Metler. They're on pit road also, so that is about second on back through 7th, with the exception of Christopher Reese that are pitting this lap.
Sounds like Reese might be coming in this lap, and then you got Takis all by his lonesome up front. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to be coming in this time by. I would imagine he's thinking about at least coming in.
But you got to think about, too, is you got to weigh the pros and cons of staying out. The time that you lose staying out there on older tires, how much of that are you going to gain back if you come to pit road, say, maybe 5 laps after everybody else, and use those 5-lap fresher tires on the, the run to the checkers?
As Personette just unlapped himself. And with Personette, where he's running right now, he will become our leader. But then he's got to worry about Bass that's behind him, that's going to be trying to get the lead back. As Reese is getting his stop finished, Personette will pass by him, and we're waiting on Takis. It looks like the 46 coming to the pits.
This means it's going to be about 30 laps. Oh,
he was speeding.
Boy, that had to have been speeding. There was no way.
He came crossing the line at like 57 miles per hour or so, but he was trying to, that thing was bouncing so much on entry into the pits. Takis just didn't have his tires on the ground to even try to slow down a couple of those times. We'll have to wait and see if he's penalized. He overshot his pit stall as well.
Just goes from bad to worse for the dominant car of the day. Now the gap is 4.5 seconds from Personette back to Chris Bass. Personette's going to inherit the lead here, no doubt about it. You talked about, he jokingly said he could use a win. I mean, he might be en route to it right now. The stars are aligning for the 26.
Right now, it is a 2-lap difference on tires, and yes, Personette is running faster, but he doesn't have any draft help. You've got the 97 who's got Chris Otto behind him, and those guys are running well and feeling confident.
Is Otto close enough right now for the 97 of Bass to feel any benefit of the draft?
Takis is still in pit road. Looks like he is serving a penalty, as he is now taking off. Now, also, it looks like he might have brushed the wall there. He's got a tad bit of damage on that right side.
He has now fallen a lap down, running in 10th place, and there you see the leaders going by him again. That actually, he may be 2 laps down.
Oh, that made him one lap down. He just went down.
Yep, because he had had the whole field a lap down when they all made pit stops. They got the lap back, and then they put him a lap down right there. Gap is closed up. Less than 4 seconds now between Personette and Chris Bass, and right now, Chris Personette hoping, praying these next 29 laps go by really quickly, but it's a 2-mile speedway. Takes a long time to get around Michigan.
You got Chris's in the top 3, and then you got the first Christopher in 4th. That 42 machine about to drop back into 5th place. He's running about 11 lap old tires compared to everyone else. It's around 4, 6. He's sometimes even on 1 lap old tires. 42 is going to drop back real quick, but a good run on his part to get himself into the top 5.
That strategy, at least for the short term, working out very well for him, as he was back around 8th or 9th place before the pit stops began. Picks up about 4 spots here because of the strategy. Out of the 5th position as Chris Noblet gets by him. How about Chris Noblet there, too? I mean, you know, we talked about him early on being back in a group of 4 that had lost the lead pack. It's some strategy, was able to gain track position after the caution came out around lap 35 or so. And now he's been a mainstay up inside of the top 7, now up inside of the top 5.
Yeah, probably the biggest redemption race inside of the race so far for that 17, as he was back around 11th, 12th on that first green flag run because he brushed the wall, had damage, wasn't able to get it fixed up, and once he got that damage fixed up, he never brushed the wall again. He's been up here in the top 5, top 6. 17 machine looking good. Personette, though, he's also got a pretty good story on his hands, as he started back in 6th place during this race. Didn't get the best qualifying time, but right now leading the race at the moment.
And he may have a bit of an issue right now, because not only does Chris Bass have Chris Otto right behind him, but the very fast 46, a lap down in Christopher Takis, he's ahead of him. So you got about 3 cars that are all lined up nose to tail here that could be able to chip away very quickly at the little more than 3-second lead Personette has had for himself.
And one of the last cars coming into the pits, it'll be Chris Leach, who just pulls his 48 car into pit road, who's 3 laps, about to be 4 laps down. But, after the internet issues that he's had, still running out there clean, feeling confident about his car, frustrated on the internet issues that he's had during today.
He was running up in the top 7 or 8 most of the day before his connection problems. This is going to drop him at least back to the 12th position. I think he'll be on the same lap as Chris Newman, who right now is running in 11th. Boy, that interval just continues to get smaller and smaller from Personette back to Bass. You can see right there, same camera shot of the lap machine of Christopher Takis, who may end up getting his lap back the hard way right now. Just looking in terms of lap times, Personette last time by 40.6, Takis 39.3, even though there's 5 laps difference on tires. I mean, that's huge. As Personette way up the track there, almost into the wall through 1 and 2.
Yeah, Personette is now losing a lot of ground, and it might just be a 2-lap difference, but Bass and Otto with the draft is helping him a ton to get back into the action and right on to this 26 machine's back bumper, as They're trying to do as much as they can. But looking back, the 48 car got loose off of 4, spun out, got in the grass, and spun out in the grass. So there was not a caution, but almost brought out our second caution of the day was Leach.
Close call there. You saw the race leaders going by the 48 down on the apron out of turn 4. Keeps it going, though. No caution. I mean, that would have changed up everything, but the battle is on for the lead. Chris Bass, big run into 3. He's looking for the lead. More importantly, Chris Bass looking for back-to-back victories here in 2 weeks after taking the checkers last week at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, then he also got Otto there in third. He's trying to catch up to Bass, and Personette kind of clogging up the area at the moment as Otto needs to take the apron to get by the 26. But gets that done. But the car that really would have loved to see a caution right now would have been Takis, who's been the fastest car on the freshest tires. He might not have the long run car, but always gets such a lead at the start with his fresh tires that no one else can really catch him until the end of the run.
If a caution had come out, we'd have gone back green maybe around 18 laps to go. That is plenty of time for a car as fast as Takis to be able to work his way back up to the front of the field, especially based on the fact that right now, including himself, we've only got 10 cars on the lead lap.
Listen, in driver chat, sounds like Otto's trying to tease Bass just a little bit, saying he's coming to get him. But, it's coming to the end of this thing. These drivers are going to try to push it as hard as they can. It's really the car that's going to try to save their tires, but also run fast is the one that's going to be surprisingly doing well here at the end. Personette with the 2-lap older tires. I don't see how he can keep up with these guys. He might be able to stay right where he's at right now, but I do not see that 26 running down the 88 or the 97 for this win.
And that one caution that we had split things up just enough that we're able to kind of observe these top two, especially what they're able to do on the long run. Chris Bass looks like he's got a really good car on the short run, but then it just stalls out the longer and longer we get into a run. Chris Otto's been the one that the longer the run goes, the better his car gets, and that might be why he's saying he's coming to get that 97. That gap continues to close up between those two. Otto running the second lane there through 1 and 2, not down there to the inside line like we're accustomed to seeing him run. So is that maybe a case of trying to make sure he's not running in the wake of that 97, not suffering that aero push?
Yeah, he's going to try to run something a little bit different so he's not overcooking those tires by that aero push that we've been talking about all race. It's one of those things where you're trying to just run a little bit off to help your car out in the long run.
Chris Corvo has brought his machine to pit road. I don't know if this is a regularly scheduled stop or if he was just getting out of the way of the race leaders. He is off sequence from the race leaders since he is currently 7 laps down, has made a couple of unscheduled pit stops during the course of this race, but 0.3 of a second is the gap right now between Bass and Otto, but there's still 18.5 laps to go. We may not have seen our last caution of the day, and of course as well, if these two start racing it up a little too much, they may use up their stuff, and that could bring some of these guys that are back there back into this conversation.
Yeah, we got the battle here for first, where you got Chris Bass and Chris Otto going at it. And then you also got the battle for 7th place, where you got 13-42. Pretty close to one another, as they've also got lap traffic behind them, as well as actually, take that back, it's the battle for 6th place, where you've got the 01 there.
Lawrence and Mettler both on the same lap of tires. Christopher Williams right now in 8th, and I don't really think he'll be getting up into this as he's running about 7 lap older tires than these drivers. May actually be a battle going on shortly between himself, maybe, and the 5 of Chris Hubka. Hubka, a little bit fresher tires, and we'll see if maybe he can catch up there and move a little bit higher up inside of the top 10. A little bit further up as well, Christopher Reese is trying to chip away at 4th place Chris Noblet, but not quite making up the ground he needs to. Noblet's been able to work his way now to the 4th position. Caution! Is it Corvo? Yes, it is.
It's Cordeau. Ah, man, he was trying to get back after that caution. Got loose, and that was a very aggressive. That's just, he got loose trying to get off pits, and it just sucks to see.
Well, Chris Newman's going to be the recipient of the free pass here under this yellow. It'll put him to 2 laps down, but Wow, closing in on 15 laps to go, and this caution is going to change up everything. I don't think there's going to be a single person that's going to roll the strategy to stay out. Everyone's going to be on pit road, and we saw the initial start of this race. We saw the restart after the first caution. This restart is going to be wild.
So lucky dog is going to be given to Chris Newman, who's going to be getting himself at least one of his laps down taken away. But Takis, this helps Takis so much because he was able to get his lap back under that green flag run, so he does not need to worry about getting the lucky dog and then starting all the way at the end of the field. He gets to actually start there with all the lead lap cars. We know the 46 is fast, but how fast is he? Does he have enough time to get through the field?
A hard shot there for the Chris Cola Ford Mustang. Chris Corriveau. And definitely needing a caution to come out there. It looked like his left front may have clipped the grass, and that's what caused him especially to snap to the right as he did. And just the timing of that caution is going to make things very interesting. I mean, you mentioned the fact that you didn't think that we had seen our last caution. You expected maybe to see a couple more. Well, with this caution coming out and knowing how wild these restarts have been, I'm almost inclined to agree with you now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where on these restarts, cars are going to be super aggressive, and usually it's short tracks. We're like precautions, but even here at Michigan, these cars are going to be able to make some pretty aggressive moves, and we've seen how aggressive Takis can be at times here on these restarts. And that last restart we had, this one, he's going to be probably starting around the middle of the field, and it's going to be a difficult time for that 46 to get through all these cars, but there's still plenty of time for him to do so.
Battle off pit road. It will be Bass with the lead. Otto comes out second, followed by Noblet. Then Metler, and it looks like Lawrence comes out in fifth. The biggest loser out of all that's going to be Chris Personette, who still sits on pit lane in the 26 machine.
Damage for the 26. That might have been why he was dropping back so much, because he might have grazed the wall or something. As he is still under pit road. A long time for that 26 machine. As well, the 42 was in there for a bit. Had some damage, had to repair. That was it.
I remember that when Personette was getting reeled in, I think it was when Takis was unlapping himself, Personette ran way up the track in 1 and 2. Almost looked like he was riding the wall out of turn 2. That might have been where that damage that he's repairing came from.
Trying to figure out. I got to go back and rewatch as Noblet's telemetry looks a little odd. Don't know if he went with 2 tires or not. I'm going to take a look to see what happened to the 17 on pit road.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing exactly what you're talking about. According to our scoring, he only spent 0.8 of a second on pit lane. I don't even see how you could take fuel in that amount of time.
No, he got 4 tires, got fuel, and took off. It's just our telemetry was wrong. 17 cars starting third and staying there for now.
So Christopher Takis, as we mentioned, was able to race his way back onto the lead lap before that caution came out. He'll be restarting on the inside of row 4 in the 7th position. He's going to have about maybe 11, 12 laps to work with. Actually, no, make it 13 laps. Lights are out atop the pace car, so we're going green this time to work his way back up to the race lead. And I mean, we saw the speed he had just to unlap himself. There's no doubt in my mind we're going to see him fight his way back up to the front here again. The question is, though, Chris Bass, Chris Otto, how much distance are they going to be able to put between themselves and that 46 when he finally gets himself cleared up to around 3rd, 4th place?
Well, you're seeing the field kind of looking to the inside and giving room. That's because the 48 admins decided, hey, that little internet issue, we don't want that to affect your finish, so they gave him all of his laps back. That 48 car is cruising, trying to get back, but by the time they go green, it might be on the backstretch.
He's going to have to pedal, that's for sure. Heading now into turn 1. Field is coming through turns 3 and 4, heading for the start-finish line. So Leach definitely's got a lot of ground to make up here, though. He's got to keep his foot in the throttle as we're getting ready to go back green. 13 laps to go here at Michigan.
And it's going to be Chris Bass getting a fantastic restart, but was it too much of a gap? Will the backstretch with the draft really hinder this 97? But for now, looking good. It's Chris Otto and Noblet side by side. trying to figure out who's going to get second place.
Yeah, they're side by side, 2 rows behind Chris Bass, which means Christopher Takis back there going to have to maybe try and find a third lane. They now settle it out to single file back through the top 4. The battle's going to be for 5th place. Takis trying to get around Mettler. He'll clear for the spot. Here comes Lawrence to the inside. That's for 3rd between him and Noblet.
Takis able to drop down below the 17, easily gets by, and that's already 3, maybe even 4 positions for Takis there in just 1 lap.
Now sets his sights on Christopher Lawrence for that 3rd position, only running about 0.6 of a second behind race leader Chris Bass. Now he'll jump to the outside line on Lawrence. Tries to see if maybe he can drive it down, cruise it off of 2. No, instead gets right on top of the right rear quarter panel of Lawrence. He'll swing around the outside down the back straightaway.
Bass and Otto are hoping that Lawrence can hold off the 46 for just a little bit longer, use up those tires, but not able to do so as Takis is in 3rd, feeling cleanly. Next target's the 88 of Chris Otto.
Takis looks like he's at a super speedway, bringing his left front right down to the right rear of Lawrence here. Let's see what he's able to do with the top 2 who are right in front of him. Top 3, top 4 only separated by a little less than 0.4 of a second.
Remember, Takis just had that speeding penalty. That's why he was in pits for so long, got a lap down. No real damage, except for a little bit on that rear right. But that 46 car looking clean, and one of the fastest cars here, extremely quick with these fresh tires.
Really able to turn it down off of the corner. That's how he was able to get to the inside of Chris Otto. He'll move to the 2nd position now through 3 and 4. 1 more car to go. That's last week's winner, Chris Bass.
Here goes Lawrence and Otto. Deeping and diving on each other, trying to figure out where they're going to place their cars. As Lawrence is going to stay behind him, but Bass, he feeling the pressure of Takis pull up behind him.
Ooh, contact there as Takis got into the back of Bass. That checked him up heading into turn 1. Here comes Otto taking advantage of that loss of momentum. He'll try and take 2nd place back. Now he's got himself alongside of Bass for the lead going into 3.
Side-by-side action for the lead, and Takis trying to figure out who he wants to help, who he's going to follow. It's going to be Otto on the inside where the 46 goes, but will he stay on the inside? As Otto drifts up, 46 stays pretty low, and here comes Lawrence here battling for 3rd.
White Takis just barely cleared. Well, he didn't, actually. Bass back up alongside the right rear quarter panel. They may be 3 wide going for 2nd place here into turn 1 as Lawrence drives it in deep.
Bass had to back off, but they were 3 wide entering turn number 1. It's going to be Takis on the outside. And now we got Otto drifting up and going to be blocking the 46 for now, as they're still blocking. Contact almost made.
Yikes. Chris Otto looking more in his rearview mirror than he is out the windshield here at Michigan, trying to take away whatever
Lawrence tapped.
Lawrence with a save. Oh, maybe not.
Here comes William. Ooh. Lawrence into the wall.
2 times he made contact, first with Bass, then with Williams. Actually make it 3 as he got the outside wall off of 4. Tremendous job not to spin it out, but Lawrence drops now to 10th place, and that car is off the pace.
And Takis now went to the lead. You hate to see that for Lawrence, but Takis able to make that pass on the front stretch. 46 car has open air in front of him. He doesn't have to worry about the arrow push anymore, but now it's Otto hoping that maybe he has pressured the 46, that he maybe used up too much of his stuff. Here in the last, coming up to 7 laps to go when they cross the line. Does the 88 have anything left for the 46?
The 42 of Christopher Williams up there. Yeah, he had that little bit of contact between himself and Christopher Lawrence, but he's been able to work his way back up into the top 5. Started this race from the outside of the front row and side by side with Noblet, trying to keep himself up in the top 5. Christopher Reese right there as well, and Otto's not going away. He's going to peek to the inside for the lead on Takis. Can't quite get there out of 2.
Oh, Noblet, Lawrence, oh no! More people. Reese goes diving down on the inside wall. Heavy contact for the 62. He's able to continue running though, but that was a scary moment there for inside of the race. Reese not happy with the way that car went, as it looks like Hubka now slow in 3 and 4, as he's now in the way of Noblet, but Personette now able to make that car get up to 4th place, as he's now making a hard charge up to the front, but side by side for the lead, and here comes Bass up from 3rd.
All the momentum and all the contact being made here in these last 5 laps, as you mentioned, allowing the 26 of Personette, who was on pit road an extended period of time under that last caution for damage repair. He's back up in the top 5. Chris Mettler, who had a top 5 run in his debut last week, might be going for back-to-back top 5s. He's now up to 5th as Otto the leader, Takis in 2nd, Bass in 3rd. It's kind of take and throw these three names into a hat, pick one out as to who's going to win this race, because all three of them seem to have each other's numbers.
You got to be careful getting that close on the exit of the corner. That's when your car's at one of its loosest points. Takis, you could have fit a piece of paper between his car and the 88 as they are right on top of one another. Bass lingering just about 3/10 back, waiting for a mistake to be made or maybe a pass side-by-side action, something to give him a chance as there are 5 laps to go. Does Otto have it? Has Takis already used up all his stuff? I mean, he was on a ticking clock of how much tires he could use up before he would run out of his stuff.
I'll tell you one thing that's really making me nervous. We had a couple near cautions here during the course of this race. Lawrence, of course, getting hit from behind and almost spinning out. Leach earlier on in this race. And Takis gets right up to the back bumper of Otto going into the corner. These are the types of tracks where it's all about throttle control. Again, contact to the back of the 88. I mean, this is just making me nervous based off what we've seen in previous incidents here today at Michigan, that we may end up seeing our top three maybe all wreck each other here with less than 4 to go.
And the car in 4th place, Mettler feeling pretty confident if they do wreck each other's. Takis on the inside, going after Otto, and here comes Bass, who's hard charging in even lower than Takis.
Otto trying to see if he can stay alongside the right rear quarter panel of Takis coming off of 4. I think Takis has him cleared. Here's Bass now looking to the inside of Takis. These three still duking it out. And as you mentioned, Chris Mettler riding about 2.2 seconds behind this, but he could find himself exiting out of a corner as the race leader if everything goes horribly for these top 3.
Hubka somehow is at 5th place. He's been running around 12th all race long, sometimes 11th place, but that last caution has set him up to where now he's in 5th place, going for his top 5 finish here for Hubka. Even going for 4th as he gets by Mettler.
Got a good run down the back straightaway. He'll clear for the spot. Personette now looking for 5th. Move back up to the front though. 2 laps to go here at Michigan. It's Takis who's led this race for the most part. It's Otto who's run 2nd for the most part. And it's last week's winner, Chris Bass, who's up here battling for this lead, potentially for the win, all separated by less than 0.3 of a second.
Bass was leading all of last week's in just a dominating run, but here today, he's going to throw it all the way down to the apron, trying to get below the 46. He spins him!
And will it bring out a caution is the question. The 46 is still down there. Oh, hits the grass and goes airborne. He's off the racing surface. No caution flies. Otto inherits the race lead. White flag in the air, 1 to go. Here comes Bass for the top position.
White flag in the air, side by side across the line. Would have been Bass that time, but Bass trying to get into the lead. Takis over the radio saying, that was my bad. I came down a little too late. But, you know, it's still hard racing down there. They were down at the apron. You know, Bass had to come up. But right now, Bass in the lead, feeling comfortable. Otto's only got 2 more corners to get by if he can get to the lead as they come down the backstretch.
If you're Otto, which lane do you want? If you're Bass, which lane do you defend? Otto's going to drive it in deep. Tries to get alongside the 97. Might try and let it drift up off the corner. He'll be alongside, but who'll have the advantage off turn 4? Bass on the top side. Otto on the bottom. The two of them are going to come together. Ooh, Otto into the grass.
Oh, he spun him!
He gets into Bass. Bass still crosses the line with the win. Hits the wall hard on the inside.
Oh my goodness, Bass somehow crossed the line. 82 hundredths of a second. It might have been sliding across it, but he got it done.
Not 100% certain. If Otto hadn't clipped the grass, he might have gotten Chris Bass at the line. He had the edge coming off of 4, but his left front clipped the grass, and much like we saw happen with Corvo earlier, the car then snapped back to the right, clipped into the left rear quarter panel of Bass. Both cars went spinning into the infield grass. Bass hit the inside wall hard, but as you said, sliding across the start-finish line, though, picking up the victory.
You know, that kind of gives us shades of Texas with this hard racing coming to the end here. What an amazing run. We're Bass with another great finish there. What a great run for that 97. He was kind of lingering back, saving his tires. Otto, who was waiting to make a move, just wasn't able to get it done. And Takis, yeah, at least he got a top 10 finish, but not where he wanted to be.
What a wild 2 laps right there. Takis spun from the lead, and Yeah, he took the blame for that one, said he came down. Almost looked like some net code there as well. I didn't see clear contact between the 97 and the 46. There was a little bit of space there, but regardless, then you had that battle to the start-finish line between Bass and Otto, and third win of the season for Chris Bass is like he'll get ready to burn it down here in front of these Michigan fans. Back-to-back victories, and we've got to go back. We've got to look at what happened there coming to the start-finish line.
As you're getting that replay set up, Chris Personette able to get to third place. He was around sixth place with 2 laps to go. Somehow got himself up to third place there. What a great run for that 26 machine. After, honestly, that last pit stop, we were nervous about where he would finish.
Sometimes you just have to survive the mayhem, and mayhem there was in the final 10 laps of this race. We're going to go all the way back here to turn 3, heading into turn 4, take a far-out view. There you see Otto, and even off of turn 4, it looked like Otto may have had the advantage, especially if he had run down there on the apron on the front straightaway, but there you see he clips the grass, just barely clips the left rear quarter panel of Bass, and Bass, actually, I thought he hit the inside wall. No, he did not. He narrowly avoided it. I guess all that front-end damage may have been from the car bouncing in the grass. And he avoids hitting the outside wall as well.
Oh, man.
We're going to take an onboard here as well with the 88 of Chris Otto and see just what he saw.
I mean, yes, he touched the grass a little bit, but also just looked like when he got down on the apron, it kind of shot his car down there to clip it.
Here's Otto off the corner, watching the right side of your screen. You'll just barely see the left front of Chris Bass, and there he goes up into the left rear quarter panel of Bass. Bass, though, at the time of contact, had about maybe 7/8 of his car ahead of Otto, so all he had to do was point it semi-straight, and he would easily have beat Chris Otto to the start-finish line, which he did. But I mean, we saw the way those top 3 were racing there, Sam, closing in at the end of this race. You had the feeling something like this was going to happen.
Yeah, they were just running way too close for any way that was going to finish out smoothly. And you thought maybe it could, but Takis getting spun out, and then the battle at the end there, going across the line. Overall, great running. And honestly, Michigan either gives us a fuel run to the end or great finishes like that.
Gave you your top 3. How about Chris Metler, back-to-back top 5s to start out his Chris Cup Series career, finishing 4th. And you pointed out there when we got to the end of this race, Chris Huff spent most of his day outside of the top 10, never fell off the lead lap, but never really got up there as a contender. Brings it home with a 5th place run, a tremendous run for that Chris's chocolate cornflakes machine. Chris Noblet brings it home in 6th. Christopher Williams in his debut, boy, he was a force to be reckoned with early. He kind of came up there into the top 5 in the closing stages. I think that was a pretty impressive run for him in the 7th position. Christopher Lawrence, after his issue there in the latter stages of this race, brings it home in 8th. Christopher Reese, who went down towards the inside wall in the back straightaway, brings it home 9th. And Christopher Takis, who took that wild slide down the back straightaway, eventually up into the air after hitting the infield grass going into 3. He's going to bring it home in the 10th position. That was the last of the cars to finish on the lead lap. Well, actually, no, also Chris Jonathan Leach, although he was a long ways behind the drivers there on that last restart. Chris Newman, Chris Corriveau, they were the drivers that finished off the lead lap. And you see Christopher Landy finishing 14th. 71 car never took the green flag to start this race. Believe we have our top 3 finishers on standby, so let's kick things off with 3rd place runner Chris Personette. Believe we have Chris Personette here. It's Sam and Seth up here in the Flat Race Network studios. You got us?
Hey, what's up, guys?
A 3rd place run here today. You were up there mixing it up with everybody on those restarts. We saw you roll the dice, come to pit road a little bit early on that last round of green flag pit stops. Was it a race-winning strategy you were trying to call there, or was it trying to finish a little bit higher than where you were running before those pit stops began?
Trying to finish a little better than where I was before the pit stops. I knew I didn't have the speed to win. I was just going to try and jump a couple of guys on by pitting early, and it seemed like once I pitted, it brought everybody else down. I was able to jump a couple positions, and I was in decent shape running third until the caution came out again. And then after that restart, just didn't have any speed in the car.
On those restarts, we saw a lot of drivers in close proximity. I think we had as many as 9 drivers up in the lead pack about 5 laps into the start of this race. Different drivers running different lines, different throttle control on how they approach the entry of the corner, the exit of the corner. What was it like being in the cockpit of one of these things with all that racing going on around you?
Crazy. I mean, so many different things you could do at that racetrack, so many different ways you can approach it that you have to be on your toes because you're running so close together. It's almost like a super speedway at the beginning of those restarts. And if one guy makes a wrong move, it's going to pretty much take out the entire field.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, it was it was just fun watching you most of that race. But man, at the end of that race, on that last restart, you started back in the pack. How was it driving through all that traffic?
Man, I can tell you for a fact, I didn't think I was going to finish third. It was difficult. I mean, once you get back there and you don't have any clean air at all, it's really difficult to pass. And luckily, some things happened in front of me, and the sea parted, and I was able to finish with a third.
Definitely a tremendous job of fighting your way up there to a podium finish here in that final restart. And we're going to let you do some shout outs now, Chris.
I just want to thank you guys for broadcasting, all the admins of the series. I want to thank Zolo's Italian Restaurant, FRN for sponsoring my car, MD's Fantasy Football Show, and that's about it.
All right, that's Chris Personette, brings it home third place here today at Michigan. Congrats on a great run.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
And next we'll get our runner-up finisher, Chris Otto. Chris, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flat Out Racing Network Series. You got us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, it looked like drivers had 2 different strategies. Some of them really were aggressive on the long run, maybe used up their stuff. Some drivers decided to conserve and had speed for the long run. Definitely looked like you were one of the latter, especially there on that first green flag run. You seem to be one of the only drivers that were able to consistently gain speed on that inside line as well. What was it like in the cockpit of that Chevrolet?
Well, the start of the race, it was a little difficult. I wasn't sure what lines everybody else was going to run, so I just kind of fell back into line, got in the draft there, and just let everybody else go by. Ran behind them, learned what they were going to do, and I like that bottom. I'd practiced on that bottom pretty much all week, and I was getting it to roll and getting it good runoff, and that's what I needed. Because I knew with these long straightaways, you're going to need a good runoff to maintain your position and keep up with the guys in front of you.
It came down between you, Takis, and Bass there at the end. You liked running the bottom. Looked like Bass liked running the middle. Takis maybe about a half groove higher. So you had 3 of you guys running different lines during the course of this race. Closing in there to that white flag, you were the race leader. You had the 46 all up in your rearview mirror. How difficult was it to try and figure out which line you had to defend going into the corner?
Yeah, after I got by him and I got the lead, I'd been running behind him most of the race. So with running behind him, I knew what line he was running. So I took it away most every corner, and he would get to my bumper, give me a little shot, but it wouldn't be enough to spin me or get me into the wall. And it was a matter of the fact that going into 3, when I lost the lead, I was looking in my rearview mirror and I missed my entry point, and they're able to get around me. I had to get on the brakes a little bit harder, not get in the wall, and I just followed behind them. I knew I wasn't out of it because I didn't get in the wall, and I wasn't too far behind them, and I was going to be able to get that draft and suck back up to him.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, taking it back to that, coming off of turn 4, I know you had a run, but then you got into the grass. Was there anything else you could have done maybe to avoid the grass there?
Yeah, not be looking out my right side window. I wasn't sure how low I was, and I was looking out my right side window to see if he had the advantage over me or not, and then I got into the grass and it got loose, and I came up and got him. I would have felt so bad if I would have won that race with that move. I think I hit the brakes to allow him to get to the line first, because I think with him being on that outside line coming off 4, he was going to get me anyways. It was just going to be a lot closer than it actually was.
It certainly made it for an exciting finish for us to call up here, and not only just to call, but to witness as well. Great run, though, for you here today. Second place. We're closing in on the end of the regular season as well, closing in on the playoffs. I know you've already got a playoff spot locked up, but a great job for you here today. Ran top 3 most of the day. You bring it home with a runner-up position, and we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out Bass and Takis there all race. It was fun running around them guys, and shout out to Chris Jones, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. He always puts on great events, gathered a great group of Chris's here, and then of course you guys for calling these races. So much fun to go back and watch you guys call these races after we're done racing them.
Well, that's Chris Otto. He brings it home second place here today. An exciting finish at Michigan. Congrats on a great run. We look forward to talking to you next week at Monza.
All right, thanks. Have a good night, guys.
And for the second time in 2 races, we're going to be talking to Chris Bass down in Victory Lane. Chris, it's Sam and Seth up here in the Flat Racing Network studios. You got us?
I got you.
Well, 2 races, 2 different situations. You dominated last time out at North Wilkesboro, but here today didn't start out quite as hot as you had back at North Wilkesboro. Ran about maybe 6th to 8th for most of that race, but you popped up there to the front when it mattered at the end. A lot of battling between yourself, Tax, and Chris Otto. Describe those final 5 laps from your standpoint.
I don't even know where to begin, really. I mean, last 5 laps were probably the most crazy 5 laps I've had since I've joined iRacing. I do feel really, really bad for Takis. I mean, I had just radioed to him, told him I wasn't going to hit him. And I knew he was going to pinch me. I just had to stay in it. If I hadn't have stayed in the gas, I'd have got past and both of them would have left me. So, and then the finish there at the end, I'd only seen Otto in the mirror, and I knew it was going to be close, and then I just felt the steering wheel jerk out of my hands, and we just spun across the line, and it's basically how it went. It was insane. It's pretty crazy.
We saw, especially on the restart to start this race, like in the first 10 laps, a lot of drivers started feeling the tire heat building up in the right front, trying to run that inside line. They were pushing up. A lot of drivers in the outside line, they were getting loose coming off the corner, but you had about 9 cars up there, separated by about 7/10. How crazy was it being in a group of cars like that, racing in that close proximity at that high rate of speed?
It reminds you a lot of a plate track, but you have to lift, and you really have to I can't say judge, but you have to just anticipate somebody getting off the gas to get through the middle of the corner, and it's a lot of aero. It's just really it's a handful, just to put it lightly. The longer you run, the more tires wear, and it just gets to be a real handful.
Yeah, Chris, I got a couple of questions for you. First and foremost, last week, I know we weren't able to interview you. So how was last week getting that win at North Wilkesboro for you?
North Wilkesboro is a very dear place to me and my family. I'm literally 20 minutes from the racetrack. I was there with my grandpa, my great-grandfather, and my dad. The last race there in 96. I remember it fondly. The race itself last week, man, it really couldn't have gone much better than it did. A lot of saving tires, a lot of remembering about the broadcast. And I mean, I even went back and watched the 96 broadcast and just watched and listened and entered high in the corners, saving your right front. And it worked out really well.
And then also bringing back us to this race, we had a couple of green flag pit stops. How difficult is it getting onto pit road and getting off? Because we saw getting off was a struggle for some of these guys.
It's deceiving. When you come off of 4 and you start to slow down, you really have to watch for wheel hop on that pit road. I don't know if it's if there's a bump there or what it is, but the transition to that pit road is a little more difficult than it looks. And with the pit road cone being so far down off of the corner, you kind of think you have a lot more room than you do, but you're going faster than you think. And it's difficult. I mean, it really is. It's really difficult to get to pit road and off pit road. It's really slick on exit.
They definitely conquered Michigan here today, though, Chris. I mean, you bring it home, back-to-back wins, your 3rd win on the season. We're closing in towards the end of the regular season as well. We know you've already locked up a playoff spot, so this just continues to give you momentum heading to that 5-race playoff system in the chase for the Chris Cup. I mean, obviously, that's a huge thing as well. A lot of drivers want to have that good mojo going into the playoffs. So we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank the names on my car, V1 Rotate Simulation Technologies. Thanking them for their support. Red Eye Designs, the awesome paint schemes they continue to pump out for me and support that they give me. All the friends and family that watch across the board here on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, with you guys and support. I very much appreciate their support, and you guys for putting on such a great broadcast. It's a lot more fun knowing there's a lot of people watching. So we appreciate y'all and everything y'all do.
Well, Chris Bass puts it in victory lane for the second straight race. You get to enjoy 4th of July weekend with a victory here this week. So obviously go enjoy your victory, and we hope to talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. God bless America, boys.
Of course, next week, oh boy, these drivers, they're going to need to enjoy that 4th of July weekend, because next week, July 11th, Sam, these guys are going to be taking on the very difficult Monza Oval.
Yeah, Monza Oval is going to be one of the funner tracks to watch for some of these guys, and it's going to be just an interesting track overall for these drivers. I mean, they've just conquered here at Michigan. Now they got to try to conquer Monza Oval.
Absolutely. That is going to be a wild one. Again, that's going to be taking place not this Saturday, but next Saturday. These drivers are going to be enjoying the 4th of July weekend off, and they'll be back racing on July 11th. But tonight, here at Michigan, a wild finish. Chris Bass takes the checkered flag, barely over Chris Otto, in a wild final 2 laps here today at this 2-mile racetrack. Sam, as always, appreciate you joining me in the booth here tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks to everybody that tuned in. Hope you enjoyed. Tomorrow night, we've got the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. They're going to be taking to the track. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what track we're at, but that'll be taking place at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We've also got the FTF Series. They're going to be running their Grand National Series at Oxford Plains. That's going to be a crazy race. That'll be taking place on Saturday evening. So a lot coming up this weekend here. If you don't have anything to do on the 4th of July, you can tune in here to the Flat Out Racing Network for the racing that we're going to be bringing to you. But thanks for tuning in tonight. For Sam Dyer, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in this evening to yet another broadcast brought to you courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.